I'm here with my good friend Dave Branson. Dave, we've known each other for really kind of met. Man, I guess it's been probably about 15 years.
Yeah.
But you're a pastor, or had been a pastor, and have gone into law enforcement, and so many other you jack of all trades.
Yes.
But welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on the show, man. I've heard a lot of good things about it. So.
Thank you. So just really kind of your testimony of did you always grow up in church, or was it a process?
Yeah, it was definitely a process. So growing up, we were not in church. My mom had been in church as a kid, and my dad had some church as a kid. And but by the time we were growing up, we weren't in church at all. And I kind of grew up in a rough area of Houston, and my dad he dealt with some drug and alcohol addiction, and my mom was trying to hold things together. And I have a younger sister that's 4 years younger than me. And by the time I was 18, getting ready to move away for college, she was getting involved with some pretty rough friends and drugs and things like that. But I remember at about 6 years old, there was a church bus that came through our neighborhood and shared Christ with us and picked us up to his church, and I went with him some, and then that kind of ended for a while, and then a few years later, my uncle, who was a pastor that lived in Lubbock, actually Odessa, and then moved and planted a church in Lubbock, he would always share the Lord with me on family reunions and things. And I remember at 9 years old, I was in Aquila, Texas. It's by Whitney or by Waco, and at my cousin's house. And one night on the back porch, I remember he asked me about receiving Christ, and he prayed with me at 9 years old. I remember praying with him to receive Christ at 9. But my family was not in church at the time, so there wasn't a way to really foster or develop that. And I remember not really serving the Lord for a few more years, and then at 16, my friend invited me to play basketball with him at church, at a local church there in Houston. And so I went to play basketball. That was my main reason for going, but Jesus got a hold of my heart at that time. And 16, and I really began to serve the Lord there for a few months, about 6 months actually. I know it doesn't sound very long, but at the time I was carrying my Bible to school, and there was something that it grounded me, and that's who my identity was. It was in Christ. But I remember at the time, our youth pastor took another job somewhere, and so I think I was probably more, connected to him than at the church, and so I kind of drifted out. I remember at the time, and I just remember it felt like, slapping Jesus in the face, and goodness, Lord, it broke my heart in some ways, but then I just kind of drifted out either way. And but at 18 years old, I remember my dad was getting worse in some of his things that he was facing. And I was getting ready to move off to college, and actually my dad told me that one day before I left, that he didn't want to live anymore. And it really struck me. And so I called my uncle, who was a pastor that led me to the Lord at 9, and told him, hey, my dad told me this, and what can I pray for him? What are some scriptures I can share? And he said, well, here's some scriptures, and here's some things you can pray for him. He said, but David, if you're not serving God yourself, your words are powerless. Ooh. And it just struck me like lightning in my heart, and I knew that if I'm going to do anything to help my family, I've got to come to Christ myself first. And so that message just really struck deep, but it didn't happen immediately then. I moved to a way to go to college. And over the next few months, I wasn't serving the Lord, and I remember being at a party and getting drunk, and during that time, one night, I remember I just had the thought, this is how your dad has been around you for several years.
Yeah.
I'll never be like that. I'll never be. I don't want to be a dad like that. And the next thought was, well, who's to say when you're going to change? Because maybe he had the same plan and he never changed. And something just got me. I know that was the Lord dealing with me. That hey, if you want to make a change, you need to make it now.
Right.
And so I started asking around for where was a good church around here, and in my college town, and somebody told me about a church, and I went. And that morning, there was a guy preaching, and it was actually John Jacobs from the Power Team.
Oh man!
And I had seen them on TV a few months earlier. One night late at night, and I remember crying as a football player coming in late at night after and watching that. But well, now he's the one on the stage, and he preaches about Mary's alabaster box. That she took what she had and gave it to the Lord, and the Lord did what he took what she gave him and did what she couldn't do. Yeah. And so, I gave my life to Christ that day. Rededicated my life to the Lord and haven't looked back since. And got into church, felt the call of God to preach. Immediately got into ministry school and started praying for my dad, my mom, and my sister. My dad, all of them started coming to church with me, drove for an hour to get to church. And my mom rededicated her life to the Lord that first time. After driving to church for a whole hour for a year, my dad gave his life to Christ. And then a year later after that, he told me he was free of drugs and alcohol, and God has completely turned his life around. And my sister was on the same path toward the Lord as well. So God's done great things.
So cool. So you kind of returned to Christ. You said you felt the call to preach.
Mm-hmm.
How, was that something that kind of came on immediately, or was it over time? How did you get into ministry?
So it was, the call was immediate at, I would say at 18 so before I came to that church and rededicated my life to the Lord, I remember I was on my college campus, and I was sitting with a friend, and we usually studied together, and we were out, and I remember some other Christian students were out sharing Christ. And they came across us and shared the Lord with us, and I just loved it. I was like, man, this kind of awakened some things in me that had been dormant.
You got the bug.
Yeah, and so, but then after they left, my friend said, I just hate it when religious people force their religion on you. And I spent the next 45 minutes explaining to my friend why Christians share Christ.
Yeah.
And it had been years since I've been in church.
That's cool.
But God was he was using me. And then after I said bye to my friend, the Lord told me, he said, see what I can do with you now. He said, wait till you give yourself to me.
Ooh.
And I just felt a call from him
to
share the Lord with people that he had given me something to do that to help. And I remember the first time I went to that one local church in the town that my college was in, I saw a globe on the sign that said World Outreach Center. And the first day I walked in there, I thought, one day I want to have a church like this. And I feel called to pastor one day, And so it's just, so immediately as I got in, I found somebody that I saw that was serving the Lord with all of his heart, and I just said, let me go help this guy, and I'm not going to wait for him to disciple me. I'm going to go make myself available.
That's good.
And I did,
really good.
And I would, if it meant working at the church with him one day, or helping him with a project, or whatever it was, I just went right alongside him.
Right. And the hungry get fed.
Yeah.
And the fact that instead of, okay, I'm here, I'm available, and just saying, okay, somebody use me.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm gonna go get this.
I'm gonna go get it. That's right.
I love that tenacity and just that determination. Like, no, I feel this call.
Yeah.
The conviction is strong enough. The conviction is real.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna go do this.
I'm gonna take responsibility for
exactly.
myself.
Exactly.
Go get it.
Not wait for somebody to hand it to you.
And it paid off very much.
So how long was it from that time before you actually became a pastor?
So At that time, I immediately started volunteering in the church and finding areas to serve. My very first ministry to volunteer was at youth, and I had a job where I couldn't be there during the youth night, but I could be there as soon as I got off. It put me there getting to youth night as it was ending.
Mm-hmm.
So I told the youth pastor, that was the person that I tagged along with,
Right.
to be discipled. And I told him, I said, well, I'll take care of the trash ministry. That'll be my ministry, it's the trash. And so I did. I said, you won't ever have to worry about the trash.
Man.
So I started doing that, and then eventually my job changed where I was able to come to youth and help, and then I became a group leader and teaching.
Yeah.
And that's when I found a passion and a love to teach the Word of God, teach the Bible. And I got an opportunity to share Christ at one of the school Bible clubs that next year. And that was my first time to preach. It was 1999, and I was so excited. And so I did that. And then I also found out that our church was doing a ministry school. So I got involved with that. It was a really great ministry school, and I did that for 3 years with them. And then I got an opportunity to come on staff at the church, and I was over the band ministry. And doing cleaning and maintenance, but the ministry that I was there to do was the van ministry, and to build it, and we took people into the streets and knocking on doors every week.
Right.
And just had a great time. I would also go. We didn't have a program at the time, but I just went to the hospital and started praying for people in the hospitals, in the emergency room, and ask them if they needed prayer. Sometimes I'd go from room to room, wait till nobody ever kicked me out, but I went.
Man, that's incredible to just be so hungry for it that it's like, hey, wherever I can serve, I want to serve. Whether it's taking out the trash or whether it's driving. It's like you won't worry about titles. You just want a place to plug in. That man, that's huge.
And God just, I was so hungry also to see, because one thing that when I came to Christ at 18 with my dad dealing with what he was dealing with and my sister, and I told the Lord, I said, God, I need a powerful God.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about what we should do, but then, because in the past I remember I'd gone to church before and they talked about how you should pray and how it's good for you to pray, but they never talked about how God answered prayer.
Right.
And how to get your prayers answered. And
right.
So I said, Lord, I need a powerful God, not just a religion. I need a true, real person that's powerful.
Yeah.
And God showed me that. Like saving my dad, delivering from drugs and alcohol, delivering my sister,
right,
my mom coming to Christ and getting free of depression in her life, and then what he did for me, saved me and put me on a new path, gave me purpose in life, but I went to school ministry, got on staff at the church, began to speak every time I got a chance, wherever. It was college ministry. I spoke in the college ministry, ministry. And then it wasn't long, our pastor started asking me to fill in the pulpit for him.
Oh, cool.
At 24 years old. And
yeah.
So, man, I loved it. That was my passion. I enjoyed it. And as I did that, it was probably several years later. It was about 2011. I got the opportunity, that same pastor, to oversee one of our new campuses that we planted about 30 miles away.
Right.
And my wife and I pastored that campus for about 9 years, and just loved it. Loved people. Loved pastoring people. Just building. We grew a lot. We saw, so many things doing ministry, and then we stepped out from there in 2020 and took a little break and just been serving God and praying about what's the next step. And but since then, I've gotten to be a part of and teaching in different school ministries and training ministries and training people to go into the mission field.
Man, that's incredible. You definitely been a trooper, if you will, to just really go after it. And I love that. I love that hunger and that passion. Um, so you had been a pastor for a number of years. Now you transitioned into law enforcement after you stopped pastoring the church, correct?
So I actually started while I was pastoring that campus. It was from 2011 to 2020, and I actually got into law enforcement and went to the police academy in 2017.
Oh, I got you.
And so while I was still pastoring full time, I felt God calling me to law enforcement.
Right.
And not necessarily to forever replace pastoring, but in addition to.
Mm-hmm.
And because I, just seeing some of the things that we were seeing on the news, people going into schools and killing children and things like that, and I just felt a call to be a part of the solution.
Right.
And to protect our children, protect our schools, and so, I feel I'm going to go ahead and pray about this, step into it. Well, God opened the doors, and there was favor, and I was able to get into a good police academy. Did well there, finished second in my class. They asked me to give a speech to our graduating class, and just God's blessing was there, and then got to work for the school district where I was pastoring at the time.
Oh, okay.
And so I was actually full-time pastoring and full-time police officer in the school district.
Ooh, you were a busy
man.
man.
But it was something to that because, serving our community in that capacity, I was able to meet and connect with people. And there were teenagers that I would have to arrest for various reasons, in the school system. And but I always treated them with respect and kindness, and as much as I could, and those same teenagers would end up coming to the church where we were pastoring.
Wow,
and
man, that's so cool, and especially in light of some of the things we've seen in past years of defund the police and just so much negativity, and there's good cops, there's bad cops. But man, you just took it even one step further. It was just like, pastor cop. That's incredible to carry that servanthood, and really it's God's character. Is that he's the good shepherd. He cares for those around him, and again, instead of waiting for people to come to you at church, you took that pastor's heart and pursued young people in a school, and had a desire to protect and put yourself between evil. It should it come, man. That's definitely the heart of the Father. That's incredible. So when what are the students' reactions to you? I mean, did they like, how did they act with you being a pastor and a cop?
So a lot of times they don't know I'm a pastor because I don't tell them.
Okay.
And a lot of times I found out even as a pastor, I usually leave that information out as long as I can.
Right, I got you.
Because immediately many people, especially the people that are not in church, and that's the ones that I just really love to interact with people that are not serving the Lord, not saved, not in church, because that's who we're called to reach. And I love Christians and believers, not at the same time, but I really love to reach those that are not reached. And so I leave that out, and instead of telling them about Jesus or telling them about church, I just try to be Jesus to them. How would Jesus act in this role if he was wearing a police uniform? If he was, and he didn't have to tell anybody about Jesus. He just, is Jesus to people, and just treat them with love, the golden rule. Treat others as you would have them treat you, but genuinely care about people and love people and lift people and strengthen and encourage and serve with humility. And that's what I try to do with these kids. But in the years, I remember in 2017 in the police academy, one of our instructors, they said, I really admire this whole class for coming into law enforcement at a time like this when many officers
Right.
are leaving
Right.
law enforcement.
Yeah.
And that was before, what happened in 2019 with George Floyd and many
Right.
other things that took place that really made it even harder for law enforcement. But one of the things that I found out too is as I got into the schools and began to serve these people, there were people from all different backgrounds and cultures and nationalities that had different perspectives on law enforcement. And some were like, "Thank you for your service," and some were like, "Don't
Yeah.
talk to me.
Yeah.
You make me nervous. I
Right.
don't feel comfortable around you." And I would say, "That's fine. I don't have to make you feel uncomfortable. I'll leave you alone." And but I remember when I went to one school district, a different school district, there was a particular young person that went and told the principal how she was very uncomfortable when I would come around at lunch and just say hello. Because I was trying to just, connect in some way and say
Right.
hello and talk to the kids. And it was a junior high. And so my principal came to me and she said, "Hey, you're doing a great job. Don't stop doing what you're doing. But I do want to tell you there's one student that said she was very uncomfortable. And it's because her parents are teaching her to hate cops. And it's probably because they've experienced some very negative things. And I don't blame them. I don't look down at them. I don't judge them or her parents for feeling that way. They may have very legitimate reasons for feeling that way. But I always knew that they hadn't met me yet.
Right. That's
And the
great.
love of God
Yeah.
in us, as Christians,
Right.
the presence of God in us makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And God opened another door in that school. One of the assistant principals came to me one day and said, "Hey, we have something called, we have a video that we play every week, and we'd like for you to have a 30-second part, a minute part in it."
Oh, wow.
So I started recording my own deal, and then I would send it to that person that made the videos. And it was about something about character, something about that theme of the week.
Man, that is great.
And so 1,100 people in that junior high saw it every Friday,
Man.
and they saw my video.
Right.
And that began to break down the walls, especially with that one student.
Really.
She began to open up to me and talk.
Yeah.
And I got to actually just build a relationship with her and her family as well. So that was good. Just break down those walls and help them to see, not all police officers are the way that many things that you've experienced.
Man, that's great. And that was kind of what I was fixing to ask you is, how receptive have the kids been? Have you been able to really kind of change some of their perspectives or some of their perceptions of law enforcement?
I think there has been several that have been changed. One young man at the school I'm at now, it's a high school, it's an alternative school where young people are able to go to finish their degree if they're having trouble at their original campus. And one young man, he had terrible experiences with police officers. And he treated me, every time probably the first month or two that I was there, when he would walk by in the hallway, he would yell something out.
So you learn
Go
some
home,
new names.
He don't want you here,
Right.
And I would just smile at him, but the thing is, in my heart would break for him that his experiences must have been pretty bad.
Right.
And I never felt anger or judgment or who are you to tell me, any of that. I would just smile at him and leave him alone, give him his space.
Yeah, it's a lot of wisdom, and it shows the character of God in that He is patient with us. The fact that He doesn't get offended, even when we say some awful things.
Yeah.
When we act certain ways, His patience is much greater than ours, and He paid the ultimate price. He gave His life for it.
Yeah.
And He'll stop at nothing to redeem it. It's at your will, it's at your discretion whether you accept that gift or not. but he's always there. I love it in Romans 8, was it 38, 39? It says, nothing can separate us from the love of God.
Yes.
Nothing living, nothing spiritual, nothing in heaven, nothing on the earth, nothing.
Yeah.
Life and death can't separate you from the love of God. He'll love you before He loved you before you were even created. He will love you after. He'll even love you after. And that He's willing to do whatever it takes. Like, He gave His life. You can't give any more than that.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to just show that to Him and live the Father's love to Him, man, I can't wait to hear more testimonies of the things that God does within that school. And I'm just expecting to see headlines, crime rate and fights in local schools disappear.
Amen.
Because those kids are finally getting to see the love of God.
Yeah.
And it's in a way that they're around it 5 days a week.
And the other thing too is I'm very aware and sensitive of our policies in our district, and so as a district employee, I don't go and try to preach to children or try to push a certain religion on them or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if they come to me asking me questions and they've already acknowledged that they have the same, they believe in Christ,
like faith,
like faith, then I'll answer those questions. I'll share, and I know it's something that's not being pushed on them.
Right.
And but I think it's honorable when we can honor our laws and our policies, but still be a witness for Christ. And but that same young man that started off that way, who later on I actually got to sit down with him and help him fill out his FAFSA, his federal application for financial student aid.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it goes. But I got to sit down with him and help him with that, and encourage him to broaden his horizons for a career.
Yeah.
And he told me some of his story, and it was devastating, the things that he's been through.
Yeah.
And but and then later on, as he graduated, somebody came and told me, they said he told us that you were his favorite officer.
Wow.
One of his favorite people at the school, and he hates cops.
Man. Dude, that's amazing.
But there's other stories. One young lady, she had shared some things enough that she believed in the Lord as well. And I remember we were talking about, I just shared with her, a Bible app that I use. Mm-hmm. And man, she got a hold of that thing, and almost every other day since, she's walking down the hall and she'll tell me, I listened to my Bible app today, and it was so good, and just things like that,